That might be
It's a
great,
sandbox.
but
It's a soapbox. It's Fanbox.
Well, hey there, sugar. This here's Lenore Zan, and you're watching Fandoms.
And welcome to Fandoms, a show from every fan's point of view. We are so glad that you're here. I say we, it's actually me. I am today without co-host, sans Will, which is perfectly fine. We're going to be talking a little bit about 3D printing and like the different facets of it, also kind of the ethics of it. Maybe if you've been like teetering on the fence, or if you are, thinking about dipping your hand in it, or maybe you've even been, doing it for a long time. This is maybe just a little bit of a refresher course, maybe a little bit of an entry level introduction. We're not going to go too in depth. There's not a lot of visuals. I'm not going to get really super technical or explaining a whole lot, but just kind of like pleading the case of 3D printing and what it really means for you to 3D print your fandom. So let's go ahead and just really get started in it. And we're not going to take a super long time. I really feel like this is something that we're going to have just a good conversation about. And since Will was so kind as to go ahead and get me into the entry level of, let's say, the resin 3D printing. It's also called SLA or DLP printing. Of course, because with FDM printers, or the printers that you see with where it has the actual extruder on the top, there are different types for different types of things, and so we'll just go ahead and talk a little bit about them real quick and kind of explain. So mainly your two types, your real two types, are going to be your FDM printer, which you'll see as like the Creality Ender 3 Pros, the K1 Maxes, the Bamboo Labs A1, or the A1 Mini. All of those are the kind that have a spool of filament, which I probably should have had with me. A spool of filament that is fed into a heated extruder that then pushes that hot the PLA, or plant-based plastic, onto a bed, and slowly, layer by layer, will draw and will build up to create a object. These objects are oftentimes they're going to have layer marks. Depending on the quality of your printer and the speed that you're printing it at, the quality is going to vary. You can get lots of different types of filament. There's PLA, there's ABS, there's PETG. There's tons of different types of filament for different types of applications. You'll see some people that create things online that will do, let's say, like a basketball, an airless basketball, which is kind of a thing lately, or they'll do like the new trend of shoes. And then there's also lots of people that create props and different types of large objects, and FDM is great for that. Now, FDM does not print a solid object unless you designate it to do so. It'll usually cause it to be printed with some type of infill, and so there'll be like a honeycomb or a squared shaped infill, unless you really want it to be, completely solid all the way through, which is going to make it heavier, is going to make it burn through a lot more PLA, or the filament, and it's going to take longer for the item to be built. There are colored filaments. There are different textured, like different types of like light responsiveness. You can get UVA, you can get all this other stuff. You can get rainbow types of filaments, and those things are great for when you're working with projects that can really use a inconsistent. So this is a stone filament I got from Micro Center. I wanted to build a dice tray for my D&D dice, and it's all one piece that was printed. There is an infill, so if I were to try to crush this, some parts would cave in because it's not completely solid. And you can, if you look really closely, you can see the line structure from that FDM print. I love this. It's perfectly fine. You can do lots of build large things, and there are slicers that will break large projects down, including things like this, which you can see it unprinted or unpainted. which is this boat, which actually comes apart in pieces, and those pieces were put together. There are also different projects where you can build different types of buildings. And one of the things I built was this tavern that I got from a subscription service, which that's another thing too. As a 3D printer owner, you have the ability to do subscription services and be able to see the things that are there. There are also the ability to create props. And so this is a prop that I made from Thor Dark World. And I actually not only printed this in different pieces, so there's a translucent red here, there's a solid black here, and then this was actually originally blue, but I painted it gold. And then I added some electronics to it, so when I turn it on, you can actually see, kind of like more of a movie realistic, where there's moving lights on the inside that causes that red to glow, which I find a lot of fun. And there's a lot of people who will not only use these to make props, but they're going to use them to make things and applications for cosplay. And this is where I feel like 3D printing has really gone into, especially FDM printing, has gone really mainstream is with prop making. There's a lot of cosplayers who maybe couldn't afford or couldn't find people that made good props. And a lot of cosplay is made with a type of foam. It's like a cosplay foam. It's called EVA foam. And those people who create those things are great at crafting stuff. But for some people, it's really hard to do those things. And 3D printing just kind of adds a little bit of oomph. Plus, there's lots of different applications that you can use to improve or to make efficient the cosplay and things in everyday life. Now, there's the FDM printing. There's also the SLA, which is stereolithographic, or the DLP, which is the digital light processing resin 3D printers. And those are printers that have a build plate that come down into a vat of UV reactive resin, which again, this is something that I didn't know getting into this, because it's actually a bit toxic. So things you want to understand with a FDM printer, like a printer that has the extruder that goes down and does its thing, you're going to deal with noise, and you're going to need to have a place where it can be, consistently where it is. And so noise is your big problem. With resin printing, it's a little bit more quiet depending on the type of printer that you have, but there is a level of toxicity that's involved that you may not know about. So there's a couple things you're going to want to do. You're going to have it in a very ventilated area. You're going to want to have it somewhere where it can be, away. And then you also want to have a clear and clean space where you can use it and have all of your things, your protective equipment like gloves, goggles, and possibly a respirator. Now, the risk with resin printing, because it's not good for your skin, it's not good to inhale, it's not good if it, you're exposed to it for long periods of time, unless it's been cleaned and cured. The risks don't outweigh the benefits. So as long as you're ready and prepared to take care of those things, there are lots of options for you to enhance and to really make your projects better. Now I just got a Mars 2 Pro, an Elegoo resin 3D printer that I am very extremely happy with. Now let me explain a little bit about the Mars 2 Pro. The Mars 2 Pro is got a pretty good size. It's small, but it's a good size space. And let's go ahead and just explain what a resin 3D printer is a little bit. A resin 3D printer is going to have an LCD screen or a screen of some type, and it's going to be with different resolutions based on the different printers, which has protective screen over it, and then you have a vat that has a clear film at the bottom of the vat that you put on top, and you'll lock into place. You'll fill that vat with resin, UV reactive resin liquid, and the build plate will come down. And what will happen is the screen will display an image on its screen, and that's as it's on the screen, it is actually solidifying the resin in that area to the build plate. And then what the build plate will do is it will come up off, it will go back down so that there's another layer, and it will do that again, and it will keep giving different images to build the slices. Now what's really cool about a resin 3D printer versus an FDM printer is it doesn't matter how much stuff is on your build plate with a resin printer, it's going to print the same speed regardless. So if you print one figure or if you print 10 figures on your printer, if you have a large build plate, a large enough build plate, you can print all of those at the same speed. I printed a number of these miniature D&D figures at the same time, and it didn't take any longer than if I would have just printed the one, because each layer is only going to be on the screen for a specific amount of time, and it's going to build up. So it is really good about building multiple things, especially small stuff, because I'll be honest with you, I've tried building or I've tried printing these figures on an FDM printer. It's not good. It's crap. So just don't try it. Great for big things, not great for little stuff, depending on the item. And so for a resin 3D printer, this stuff is phenomenal, and this is great. So if you're looking for miniature or more intricate things, you're going to want to print with a resin 3D printer. If you're looking for bigger stuff, FDM is a great option for that. Now there are different types. So let's go ahead and break down what I've learned so far, acting like I'm an expert at all. But think about this. There's different types of screens. So there are different resolutions. So just like with the television, you have the 1080p, you have the 2K, the 4K. There's 8K televisions out there. Well, there are 2K, 4K, 8K screens. There are even some companies that are touting things that are bigger than that. I think some company is touting a 16K, which just means that the pixels are smaller, which means you can get more details in. Now, what that technically means, and honestly, this is on a 2K screen resolution. Small screen, a 2K screen resolution. Detail's pretty great. But when you look at the differences, for some people, it means a lot to have just those different types of images. And so you can see like the 2.5 here on the right, you have the 4K in the center, and then you have the 8K on the left. Now, in some cases, it's small enough, it doesn't really matter. I will be honest, with my 4K or my 2K, I am very happy with this. Now, if I really wanted to get more in depth with the faces, which let's face it, it's so small, you're not going to be able to paint that. It's going to take a little bit of work to be that detailed. This is going to be perfect for you. And so the rest of the stuff is just gravy. So just to consider that. Now with the different screen resolutions, there's also different screen types. Now, if you are looking at me through a screen, whether it's your tablet, your laptop, your computer, you are seeing me most likely, unless you're in the Stone Ages still, you're seeing me in color. And that's through an RGB screen. So you've got red, green, blue that are going through. It may be CMYK, but most likely you are seeing color. And that is not the friend of resin printing. Color does not enhance the quality of your print. In fact, a color screen on your printer is actually going to be less efficient. And so what you're going to want to get is a monochrome screen, or get a printer with a monochrome screen. Now, what that means is with an RGB or with a color screen, you have this, if you see those blocks of color, there are color filters within a screen that really just hinder your light source. So if you get rid of those, what you're going to end up having is less filtration to have better light, which means a stronger burn or a stronger I don't know the term necessarily, solidifying of the resin. And ultimately it's going to make the image better and more sturdy and strong. And so if you want efficiency, in a lot of cases, if you do a monochrome screen as well, you can actually print faster because it will cure the resin. I guess that's what I was trying to say earlier. It will cure the resin faster, and you can actually tweak those so that it actually will go quicker and your prints will take not as long. So those are the kind of the basis of them. Now, what are some things that you're going to need for each of these printers? So for your FDM printer, the filament printing, hot printing, extruder printing 3D printer, you're going to want a couple things. You're going to want probably a glue stick. In some cases, some issues happen. A lot of failures happen with FDM printers. build plate adhesion is a big problem. And so in some cases, people will buy special build plates that will be a better fit to really hold the print in place. You'll find some people that will upgrade to tempered glass. They may get magnetic plating. But a lot of people, if they're just going with a basic printer, like when I started with my Ender 3 Pro, your best friend is going to be a glue stick. You're going to want to put a good, healthy amount of glue on that build plate so that when the printer starts printing, it holds those first layers in place so that it doesn't break loose, and then you have a failed print on your hands. Now, in the case of failed prints, if you've got some money to really dish out, there are options for breaking down your failed prints, your used plastic, and to re-spool to make more filament, but they're going to be in like the $9,000 to $10,000 range. You're gonna get a lot. You could buy a lot of filament with that. Let's just say it that way. There are some home options that have been touted or have been advertised, but they have not really materialized on the market as of yet. There are some things that you can look up on Kickstarter or whatever, and you can see like it's like 3D printing, recycling, and you'll see different options there. The other thing you're going to want is a spatula. You're going to want some type of scraper. You're also going to need a good pair of snips, because with a lot of these prints, they're going to have supports. And what I mean by supports are, in some cases, these things are going to print, but there's not a lot of it holding the build plate. And so there's high likelihood that either the printer is not going to print it properly, that the hot plastic is going to cave in, or it's just going to fall off completely. And so having a raft or like a brim support, or like a base, like a foundation to your print, and then also having supports that are holding those places so that when the printer does go through and do those lines of, let's say, a higher layer, there's something that it's there to support it so that it actually builds properly. You're going to want to be able to break those things off. And I will say this, 3D printing with FDM, the extruder printing, is probably more frustrating in my eyes for the sheer fact of how hard sometimes those prints are. Especially if you're working with an older 3D printer. Those things are absolutely bonkers when it comes to trying to remove some of that stuff. And you may end up having 3D prints that still have a lot of the support bases. Also, it means that those layers that those supports are on are not going to be as clean as if there weren't supports. But that's what you give up when you have it. And so what you want to mostly do is have those supports be in places where you can't see it. And that way those dirty layers are sitting there. In fact, if you look at the bottom of this, you see that blue, that's where one of the supports was, and I couldn't deal with it, so I just left it there. Uh, but yes, Z, you're saying in the chat, yeah, 3D printing accessories is probably one of the best things you can do for your 3D printer, and that's the great part. So if you don't have something, or if you can't afford to get something, spool holders, different like type of attachments. One of my favorite things that I did for my Ender 3 Pro was, first of all, building strips that actually went into the little crevices to prevent dust and crap getting into those crevices. The second thing I did was a feed arm. And what it basically was just like a little eye, like a little needle eye, bigger than a normal needle, that the filament that was up on a spool would go into and then go down into the extruder. Because what that did was it prevented it from getting caught up in the gears or being stuck or snapped. It just gave a natural direction. Now, newer printers have guides and have things that you can use that kind of work with those things, but there are options there. You can also make brackets to put on cameras so you can watch your prints, or add additional lighting so that you can see your printing. There are so many different options, even little toolkits where you can pull a little drawer out under the 3D printer. One of the things I have on mine, I have a K1 Max from Creality. I printed a little tool rack that I removed some of the screws, and I bought longer versions of those screws, and I screwed it into the side of the panel, and it holds my snips. It holds my like I call it a spatula, my scraper. It holds the Allen wrenches that I need. It'll hold a glue stick. It'll hold a pair of pliers if I need them. All of those things are held in place. So you can 3D print for your 3D printer, but don't focus too much on that because you may end up just kind of making a lot of stuff that really works, but you don't really get to enjoy. Um, Now, with the resin printer, you're definitely gonna want those scrapes. I have a bunch of additional plastic scrapers or plastic like the paint spatula. I keep wanting to say spatula, but it's metal. But there's plastic ones, and what I usually use that for is to kind of run through the resin vat to make sure that there's no air. You want to make sure that if you have a failed print, you check the bottom to make sure that there's not anything left in the bottom. And there are really some really cool tips and tricks on YouTube that you can watch that'll show you how to keep those things clean. And I'll be honest with you, your biggest friend with resin printing is going to be 99% or 99.9% isopropyl alcohol because it helps break down the resin. It's what you're going to use to clean your prints so that you're not getting resin all over yourself. It's going to be what you want to use to clean your tools. And with some printers, there are cure stations that come with it and also cleaning vats. But basically, you want to get a plastic container that you can dip everything in. I thankfully, with the printer it was given, it came with a station which not only has a agitator at the bottom of the bin for the alcohol, but it also has a really cool turntable. When I take the bin off, I can put the resin print on, and then I can sit them and run them through more UV light to not just have them clean, but also have them firm, so there's no resin residue left behind, and it's stronger, and it's just nice. And so it's important to clean and cure your resin prints. You can also use a black light. You can use different UV type lights, but you're going to want to make sure to be very careful because if you use UV right next to your printing vat and there's not a filter or screen, you're going to harden the actual resin that's in your printer at that time. You're also going to want to make sure that you do not have your resin printer near direct sunlight because you will then have a brick in your vat, and then that's trouble. And so there's lots of different things to be aware of. Now with my my alcohol bath that I use for my printer that has the agitator, there's also on the same device that does the UV curing, there's a rack so I can actually put a basket on, and I can take my items off of the build plate and put them into the basket so that the alcohol swirls and cleans them. Or there's even a little rack that I can put my whole build plate in and dip that into the alcohol, and it will swirl and it will clean those things as well. But you're also going to want a brush that you can actually kind of gently clean those things. Uh, Ultimately, that's the majority of the technical aspect of it. Now, there is some things that we can talk about the ethics of 3D printing. But before I get into that, I do want to talk about something that's, we're talking about fandoms, we talk about different things. DC is having a great year when it comes to movies and everything else. But one of the things that I've been able to be a part of is the Legend of Batman, or the Legend of the Dark Knight series from Fanhome. And so let's go ahead and take a quick look at that. And so Fanhome has been so kind as to send me this subscription package, and what it really has is a bunch of classic and really iconic stories within the Batman mythos. And so if you have ever wanted to get into Batman but you didn't know where to start, this will take you into Batman Year One. It will take you into the Flashpoint. It will take you into the Court of Owls, the City of Owls. There's Hush. There's the Long Halloween. There's lots of different stories that are really important. The Killing Joke. If you have heard these names as a comic book fan or as a, let's say, comic book movie fan, but you didn't know where to get started, try Fanhome. Fanhome.com has the Legends Batman graphic novels. What's really cool is you can see it above me here. They also all of the bindings of these books, when you put them together, will make images. And of course, they're not going to make it super easy for you. They're going to do it randomly. So it's a little bit of a puzzle over time. So as you get your subscriptions, you'll be able to put this together. And I've got some parts put together, but I'm still waiting. And so they've got me hooked, and they've got me really wanting to see what I get next. And of course, I was super excited. Just yesterday, when I was getting ready for the show, they sent me a confirmation that my next 3 books are on their way, and I'm super excited. And they even give you, as you keep your subscriptions, they give you special gifts. I've gotten a nice metal Batman sign that I can put up on my wall. I've gotten some really cool prints, and I have a mug on the way. And so I'm really excited about that. I'm probably going to take it with me to work. But be sure to check out this. I'm not getting paid for you if you subscribe, but I am telling you this, it's worth it. I love this. I know like a lot of people want to collect the individual issues, and if you're a comic book collector, that's great. But if you're a casual reader, or if you want to have like an anthology of really great Batman stories that you can go back and read without messing up your comic books, this is the one for you. And it's really cool. So go check it out. Fanhome.com. Not only can you get this, but they've also got a really cool subscription package where you can build the Adam West Batmobile. And then there's other stuff. I even think there's a Power Rangers thing now, Marvel stuff. The possibilities are endless. So go check them out, fanhome.com, and you won't regret it. So thank you for that. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the ethics of 3D printing. And I say that very carefully, because it's not like there's a racket or a black market, but there are some questionable things that can happen. So let's go and talk about it. Now, if you are a fan of a property and you go on and you find somebody who's designed a prop, and you're not, they put it out there and they make it available for you to buy, you can print it. Now, if you decide to print it and then sell it, you could be not only messing with the licensing for the actual franchise that you're a part of, but also you're stealing potentially from the creator who designed the 3D print. And so there are things that you really need to check out and make sure. There are fair common uses. There is commercial free licenses and things like that. I can tell you right now, I got this. Let me just bring this back. I got this 3D print, I believe, off of Thingiverse. Thingiverse.com is a place that you can go and you can download free items now, or free STL files, which are the files that you use to build these prints. Now, you can use them for either FDM printing or resin 3D printing. It's really up to you. And in some cases, resin would be a much better option. Will's not with us. I was hoping that maybe he would have something to be able to share. I do have a resin print that he made, and it's actually the Khonshu from Moon Knight, the totem from the show. He printed in resin and then he sprayed it with glue, and he then put it in sand. So it's all sandy feeling, kind of like it's the real prop, which is really cool. And it's great to have those props. In fact, there are lots of 3D printed things that you can do that are really awesome. But the problem is when you get into starting to sell them. That's where the issue is. Now, there are lots of printers out there that are printing their own designs. They have taken a base item, they've tweaked it, and they've done their own thing, and that's great. But that's not necessarily what is supposed to happen. A lot of people will take and they will just hold on a second. My computer is kind of acting wonky. I want to make sure it's not broken. A lot of people will take 3D prints that they find off of different places, and they will literally just they'll just rip them off, and they will sell them, and they don't care about the licenses for the people who made the things. They don't care about the licenses of the properties that they are stealing from. And unfortunately, that happens a lot. Now, there are also other concerns about taking and recreating products that are being sold and then selling them as your own. I mean, people can do that kind of stuff. But honestly, if you're being careful and you're printing for your own personal use and you're using those things, as long as you're not taking something that was licensed and has been said, don't do this, or don't do that, you're perfectly fine. And so follow the rules, follow the guidelines, make sure you're not breaking the rules. This right here is a print that I got from a actual subscription service, and I am allowed to print it as much as I want for myself. I could probably print it and give it away to someone because I have friends that do D&D and I might want to gift it to them. But if I turn around and make it and then sell it, or if I sell the file, I'm breaching a contract. I could be in litigation. I could have a problem. So don't do that. Don't do those things. There are great places where you can learn to make 3D prints your own. One really simple one is Tinkercad. If you look up Tinkercad online, you can actually learn kind of the basics of making 3D prints. In fact, I created this off of Tinkercad. Now, I've made this, and I'm not going to sell this, but this is something that I made because Mr. Marvelite. So why not? And there are different things that I'll make. I'll make keychains. I've made the flags that you have on microphones so that when we go to events as Fanbox, we do that. I've got different prints. If you look right, hold on, let me get it right here. It's the Nerd Initiative logo. I printed that on a 3D printer. I've done different things like that, and you can make your own stuff. So that makes it a lot more fun. But yeah, be very careful, be very cautious. Like don't break the rules. If you're gonna pirate, don't broadcast it. Because it's kind of messed up. Now let me see here. I want to see if there's anything else that I really want to talk about here. So there is an industry pathway when it comes to 3D printing. Like they're 3D printing homes or 3D printing like different items. People are even 3D printing stuff that you can wear and everything else. But really, that's not what we're here for. We're here for the fandom. So if you have ever considered being a 3D printer, a maker, and doing it, but you weren't sure how or why, I hope this has been a little bit of a help. I hope this has been a little bit of a guide. Again, this is just me talking. I'm a talking head. I'm doing this because I've got to be consistent on this show and start making consistent content. And I'm glad that you guys have been listening to me talk about this stuff. But do this. If you are listening to this later on, if you're listening to the podcast, if you're listening to this in the podcast form, and you haven't seen a single thing that I've been showing, that's okay. Go to the YouTube. You can see that. If you are watching this and you have questions, even if you're not watching it live, if you're watching this after the fact, send us comments, or you can send a message or a question to itsfanbox@gmail.com or contact@itsfanbox.com, either one. And we would love to hear your questions, and maybe we'll make a follow-up video or a follow-up episode and really give you an opportunity for Will, because I will be honest, Will is the mastermind when it comes to 3D printing in my mind. So I appreciate him talking and telling me things, because there are lots of things. And I also forgot to tell you one more thing. If you're 3D printing something and you are printing it in pieces, which you will do a lot of that. That house was in pieces. That boat was in pieces. This here was in pieces. You're going to want some good glue. And my favorite type of glue for 3D printing is a 3D print glue called Gloop. And there are different types for different types of prints. So I have the PLA one. If you're doing resin printing, I will be honest with you, super glue works perfectly fine. Super glue adheres, or you can get UV reactive resin like sealant or like glue, and you can actually do that. And there are lots of different options for those things. Some people even take and they have like hot knives or like the soldering irons, and they will melt them. I've tried a little bit of both, and I'll be honest with you, it doesn't work perfectly. Especially when it comes to stuff like this. If I were to try to hold this by its handles, it would come apart. It has come apart. The glue probably would have done better with this one because I didn't have this at the time. But if I hold it properly, it's perfectly fine, because let's face it, this is going to sit on my shelf and it's going to collect dust and just look pretty with all of my other props, which is great, which is what it's there for. But be sure to leave a comment if you have a question. If there's anything that you have wondered or want to know about, we definitely would like to try to respond and maybe do a follow-up episode on this at some point. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Please be sure to check out isfanbox.com, also fanboxnetwork.com. You'll find articles that we've written. You'll see postings for the different shows. So maybe you're not watching us on YouTube, but you're watching us elsewhere. There's where you're going to be, where you're going to find where we're at and what we're doing. We've got the TARDIS Talk episode coming up this Sunday for Wish World, for season 2 of the 15th Doctor's run. And then once we get to the 31st and we get to the finale, we're going to be jumping right back into David Tennant's run of Doctor Who. And so be sure to check us out. Those are Sundays at 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 o'clock Pacific. Be also sure to check out our sister company, part of our podcast network, The Real Study, and also the trivia game, The Real Arena. And if you don't know, we're sponsoring that. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you haven't seen it already, if you like movie trivia and you like to think that you're a movie buff, go check them out. The Real Study. You can find them on YouTube and check out The Real Arena. It's a lot of fun. And then sometime, I believe next week, we will be having the finale episode of talking about Andor season 2. David and the team are going to talk about that. They were kind of waiting because, let's face it, Fan Expo Philadelphia got in the way and people in life is going on. I would rather have everyone there together. And so they're going to be getting together and talking about those episodes, those last 3 episodes of Andor season 2, coming out very soon. So be sure to check that out. We try to post those videos, or at least those placeholders, a couple days in advance. So be sure to check that out. And of course, again, it's fanbox.com. My name is Tony. You can also find me as Mr. Marvelite on social media. Thank you so much for being here with me and enduring me talking as a talking head all by myself. It's not something that I'm normally comfortable with, but I think I'm okay with this happening every once in a while in the future. Besides, I'm a talkative guy. I can talk a whole lot. I have no problem filling the space. And with that said, thank you so much for those who are in the chat. Z, as always, thank you for being here and being a supporter. And for those of you who are silently sitting and watching, thank you for not changing the channel. I appreciate that. And hopefully it's been a little bit entertaining. With that said, I hope whatever your fandom is, you enjoy it. Maybe you'll jump into doing some 3D printing yourself. And as always, just enjoy what you love, because it's amazing. You're amazing. Have a wonderful night.